Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Grief Lives Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. This is Tony Lynch. I'm the host of this podcast, and yes, we are your number one podcast for bringing you stories around death, dying, and grief, all the messiness that comes in between, with some amazing people out here changing people's lives one heartbeat at a time. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to their YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. But most importantly, if you know anyone who could benefit from the conversations that we have, please do me a favor and share this along with them. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. Okay, now without further ado, I'm going to bring on my guest. Please, guys, help me welcome my guest, Kurt. Kurt, how you doing, my brother?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. It's a great time to be on your podcast. Thanks for letting me on here.
Of course, man. The pleasure is mine. Now, before we get started, man, introduce yourself to the audience. Tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Okay. Again, my name is Kurt Roskopf. I'm out here in where I like to say is as close to heaven on earth as you can get. It's called Milwaukee, Wisconsin, folks. So come on over. And in terms of the work that I do, I love what you're doing here, Tony, and what we're doing here together in live streaming land. I love the new media formats, the self-syndication, the social media videos. So I have a World of Ability podcast network where I was on earlier today with Spirit of the Game Foundation. I'm the America's chair for the Impactful Veterans Network. And that's what Spirit of the Game. Spirit of the Game Foundation is all about impact. So this is a passion of mine that set foot a couple decades ago and grew into where now today I say in over 20 years, I've accumulated over 100 organizational affiliations where all along the way, it's been building up in this appetite to have like a clearinghouse of do-gooder information and resources. So I served as 10 years, I served as an EMT, an emergency medical technician. And, so ran on the ambulance for our local fire departments. And so with pre-hospital care, I'm able to, look at, how we're serving people and, how to organize under protocols and, the situations that happen in life. And one of the things that I do in life is I water ski. I love to water ski. I was born into show skiing. So my mother and my two aunts, they performed water ski shows before I was born. And by the time I was 14, my brother joined this local water ski organization. And I joined the next year because when I was in the audience watching my brother, I'm like, I got to be in this show. That I love to water ski too. I can do everything my brother's doing. So we did it together. And I'm still in this club 39 years later. But what happened 37 years ago, so a few years into my being in the club, they took on taking people with disabilities water skiing. And so what happened 10 years ago is we set out to take this community member water skiing in our water ski show. And that's adding on to it. I'd already been doing a couple decades of annual events for adaptive water skiing events, an annual event once a year. So I had an appetite to add to it. This community member comes out to ski. What happens is two of our friends say no. They left this guy high and dry. He went home without skiing. And it was upsetting where I talked to my wife and daughter next day. We created the Inclusion to Water Skiing campaign, the Everybody Skis program. And I went out to expand the whole element. In Wisconsin, we more than sextupled the access to the sport of water skiing in 6 years for people with disabilities. And in the trail, I learned that that injured, wounded vets are really enjoying other people's programs. So I learned from them and brought it into my mantra. And being at these events, I started to learn more about veteran services and, so the veteran suicide issue and all of these things. And so it emerged into my becoming the Wisconsin Council on Disabilities vice chair. And doing that government work, I learned a lot about collective impact. And I learned how with these governor committees with our states, the governors get advisement from people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, the deaf community, blind community, people with physical disabilities, the services for those with a mental health diagnosis, those with a goal of substance use reduction. And then I personally add, because my SureTel relative runs hopeandstill.org, I've added the element of living with chronic pain. And then it just keeps going. It's like a health and human services experience in the private sector. So I'm not a caseworker, but when you look at what caseworkers do in social work, I'm kind of that private sector side, using nonprofits, NGOs, and the whole thing to create what they say in government is a wraparound. So being involved in these 100 different settings, I constantly realize that what this smaller set of people do, including being on the Wisconsin Council for Physical Disabilities, is it seems like we got to get it out there like 33 times greater, like a 3,300% growth in how there's awareness out there, for what they all do. And now this brings us right up to being here with you, Tony. I love what you do. This is what I'm all about right here, being here with you and letting everybody watch and listen to great stuff going on out there.
Yeah, man. And first I want to say, man, thank you for the work that you do. I work with a few vets myself in suicide intervention, things like that, helping them deal with their PTSD, and all the challenges that come with that, right? Because I know a lot of veterans that are homeless right now. Feel like they have no purpose, feel like they have no direction. And so it leads me to my first question. With the work that you do you feel that it gives these veterans a purpose, give them a reason to want to come out and seek that support in helping deal with the things that they've had to deal with over the course of years, especially coming back and becoming a civilian after going to war?
I would say absolutely so. And so I kind of frame it in, what I'm designing to happen from a community response, a citizen response. So I'm also an ambassador with Project DieHard, projectdiehard.org. And, we're combating veteran suicide by spreading hope to veterans. And so we've got 4 ways for our nonprofit that we ask people to respond. Pray for us, spend time with us, spread our mission, like here with this podcast, let's talk about it, grief, let's talk about it, spread this out, because taking those actions helps grow the mission. And then, as we know with everything, what's paid gets done. So if you're the person, or if we know people that have financial resources, obviously helping our nonprofits build up a treasury, helps do more. But to your question about the effect that it has on veterans, right now, the situation at hand is, first of all, there's a ginormous sector of the population that has no idea that we lose about 48 veterans a day to suicide. So what that means is, by the time this show is over, statistically speaking, we've lost a veteran in the time of this show, right? So taking that awareness, we run the risk of being entertainment. And what I mean by that is, this is an all hands on deck initiative. Veteran suicide is on the climb. The VA has been following it for decades, and the reports are all, something that's carefully reviewed, and there's hesitancy to report what I just said, 48 veterans a day. So right now you can't find that number. It's all locked behind the scenes, and it's not officially getting out there, but there's people that we're connected to that allow us to, respond accurately. And we need to know the real deal. We can't go here and say their bullseye target is here, And it's like, oh, sorry, it was really over here, in
Right.
terms of responding to these issues, So, but again, for the veteran in social work, social services, health and human services, public health, whatever, in agency work, and when these collective impact groups get together, they talk about a wraparound. So the idea is when you have someone who comes into the system to get help, we build awareness so that all of the things that person needs from the system or from government, from agency, from the community, to know, like everything that can come through 211, to dial for all this help, or to, dial the suicide hotline, whatever, that it's a wraparound to help that person, go away with something, that everything they need to deal with it all at once rather than piecemeal it. Now, there's always going to be a little of that, but the aim to our government systems is that when somebody comes in, presents, there's an intake, and the government staff, agency staff, is aware of circumstance. They're even looking at the family or the natural support network to say that coming in and supporting the veteran is great, but what about the spouse? What about the children? What about if mom is helping that veteran out? How is everybody that's affected by the situation and is a support to help the predictable success being fueled and, nurtured in a way that the outcome we're looking for in the veteran is emerging from a holistic approach? So I work with, personally, this is my personal creation from all my studies and experience, I create a 6-point system. So the 6 check-ins are faith, service, education, civic experiences, work, and all the fun things we do in life. And I go with what's fun gets done. So like I shared the water ski story. The idea of having all veterans, not just injured, wounded veterans, but to take the world of water skiing, the USA water ski and wake sports, and to challenge them, out of Florida, not to challenge them like, making it harder for their staff, but to say they serve a huge population, but to be able to appeal to the organization to say, what can we do to use your world of water skiing and all your members to say, can we have a PSA, a check-in with all your members to say, hey, have you included a veteran today? With all your water skiing experiences, can you create a campaign out of Rockford, Illinois? They are the lead of the whole thing. They hopped onto the bandwagon of the Wisconsin Water Ski Federation. They came to us to learn how adaptive water skiing works. And the Ski Bronx out of Rockford, Illinois, they decided to create their program to be for injured, wounded veterans. They were doing a specialty program for that caught on to USA Water Ski and Wake Sports. And now for the last couple of years, there's been a half a dozen programs across the country, including Twin Lakes, Wisconsin, closer to me, where these veterans can go around and experience water skiing on a sit ski and other adaptive equipment so that they can go out and get away from whatever they deal with back at home. That's the key. We need to have engagement in churches, in NGOs, in schools, in our government buildings, and our community centers and everything, and in our workplaces, and, out in all the fun things, all the rec clubs. And, we need to get the veterans really having a warm welcome and really figuring out how we work with them, that it's a natural reaction, that they know and feel, and there's affirmation that they belong.
Yes.
That's the key.
Yes. And, Kurt, I'm glad that you brought up that number, what the amount of veterans that we lose, because one of the things that I do is that I support the Valhalla Project, right? And it's the You Are Enough shirts. And so I'm always encouraging people to, go out and support them. Go out, and, well, most importantly, support our disabled community as well, right? Because in a lot of ways, I kind of feel that they get pushed down to the wayside. And the reason why I say this, right, because I work with men from across the world. And that's his own set of challenges right there. But I get a mixture of individuals. And one of the biggest challenges that I come across when dealing with them is that they always feel that they're not being heard, they're not being seen, right? They feel like that people look at their disability and already count them out, right? And so with the work that you do and the work that I've seen in some organizations out here in Colorado, it's really I love the fact that everything is coming together. People are actually working in the private sector, but also they are going back in and pushing the government to take notice of what they've done, right? To hold them accountable and say, look, you guys done this, right? Or you guys contributed to doing this. So let's contribute it into getting them into a healthier lifestyle, right? And I love the fact that you brought up the families because honestly, Kurt, look, there's a lot of families out there being affected, and that they don't say anything, right? I've seen the divorce rate with veterans, right? I've seen, I've seen the addiction rate. I've seen the alcoholism. I've seen the homelessness that comes along with them, as well as our disabled communities. As as a community, how can I know you probably said this before, but I just want to reiterate on this just a little bit. How can how can we build a community for our veterans? Because I know and the reason why I asked this because I know we had a project going on where we were building tiny homes for veterans. Like we bought probably 400 acres of land. We had a contract to build tiny homes. COVID happened, and everything just kind of went to crap, right? Um, what else can we do, right?
Well, first of all, starting with something super simple that we can guarantee ourselves that we're going to do that something. Because the biggest mistake we can make is to have it in our heart that, yeah, we're going to help our vet. We're going to, feel in our gut that we're drawn to help a veteran. And we go about our business and, days, weeks, months, and years pass by and we didn't do a gosh darn thing. So the key is to pick something that when you think about, when you wake up and when you go to bed and when you sleep and in your waking time, sleeping time, all the people and all the interactions that happen around you, there's something in our existence that is our element to share. So the idea is what we want to do is share of ourselves. So when we talk about suicide ideation, the simple thing about suicide ideation, our campaign at Project Die Hard is, check your vet. The story of Project Die Hard is that Brian Gibson, the founder, over 8 years ago, was sitting there with his gun and all ready to go with pulling the trigger. It's all in his mouth and everything. And all of a sudden, the phone happens. One of his buddies from church was asking if he was going to go to the biker event. There is a motorcycle, group thing being done at the church. And, so the guy was just curious. Hey, Brian, are you going to be at that event? Well, Brian's on the phone and he's telling the guy, yes, yeah, I'm going to be there. Of course. And then, so that's the idea, is that's the way that conversation ended up. He's committed to go to this church event. So he puts the gun away. And so it's out of that connection, the check the vet. And it wasn't check the vet like, how you doing? It was, there were plans. And the guy just wanted to make sure, like, he wasn't surprised that Brian wasn't going to be there. Like, just, in courtesy, like, hey, am I going to see you there? And because there's that ongoing interaction, Brian is here today. And out of that, he created Project Die Hard because he's looking at how his life was saved thanks to our heavenly creator, because he gives credit that it's because of his heavenly father that all happened. And he's here and he felt the calling to say, Brian, go out and save your brothers and sisters, spread hope to those that fall into the lurches of the demon like you did. That's the calling he felt, and that's what he's doing now. He's answering that calling. And that's where on this format, I met Brian like this on a live stream. It was like this, and then all of a sudden it was the host saying, "Okay, Kurt, I just want to pause there. We have another guest." So this is like well over 2 years ago. I'm on a live stream like this, and that's when I got introduced to Brian. And hearing he's from Project Iron, he's a veteran. He's got this, nonprofit for helping veterans with suicide. When I heard that, I'm like, oh yeah, I wish I would have known sooner. Let's get Brian on. He and I talked for an hour after that show, and I became an ambassador of Project iHeart as a matter of what you're doing, Tony, right here. This made the connection.
Yeah.
And where it's evolved to now is that I've been introduced to a group about 6 months ago called People for a New America, and they have a veterans committee. And that veterans committee was amongst 9 committees. And what I did with this group, I learned about everything going on, and I learned all about the 9 committees, and I told them I'll help them with each and every one. I told them I'm an ambassador of Project iHeart. But what I did with the group is I said, let's look at this. You got 9 committees, and let's look at the potential in the next half a year, whatever, to move your mission forward. And I said, to be honest with you, I told him, I think you'd be making a mistake if you just didn't go ahead and say you're going to lead with your veterans. And it's because they got a lot of great stuff going on. That veterans committee, it was percolating with potential. And that's what they did. I orchestrated to them how their other 8 committees can create that wraparound and that base and a resource to make their veteran committee successful. And I said, let that be your proof of concept for your whole People for a New America thing. And so that's what we're imbibing in, Tony, and everybody out there, is we're positioning veterans in my eyes, in a stereotypical sense, so you have to leave levity for all veterans to speak for themselves. But on the macroscopic scale, considering the whole entirety of the population of veterans, to let that population be the tip of the spear. Their mantra at People for a New America is heal our nation.
Mm.
And I look at, before they committed to the veterans being out front, I'm like, if you want to heal our nation, you need to demonstrate how we're going to heal our veterans. Once you heal all our veterans, it's game over. Everybody in the country will be healed. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm all about the healing process, right? And I love the fact that what you're doing, because I can see the connection with everything, how everything leads into something else, right? Like you got all the bases covered. Something similar of what I do, like when working with men who have gone through loss. I look at the whole thing. I look at the whole person, and I go, look. In order for people to get to where they are, you have to work on some components of that person: their mental health, the spiritual health, emotional health, as well as their physical health. Right? Teaching them different things. So I'm a personal trainer as well, and so I take people out and I work with them. I teach them how to eat well, things like that, and then I have different programs that are set up. So one of the programs that I have is resilience, and it's designed to uncover all of these things that we keep at bay, right? So your depression, anxiety, all of those different things. Maybe you're struggling with some extreme loss. Maybe you're struggling with PTSD. Maybe you're struggling with some addiction, right? And so the program is designed to pull those things out and then putting you in a position to go, look, I'm struggling. Right, to be comfortable with those things, to be comfortable, to learn how to articulate first and foremost, right? Hey, this is what I'm feeling. So, of the program is that I go, hey, look, what are you feeling right now? Don't just stick to the basics, and I give them a list of emotions that they can run through, right? And so once we start figuring those things out, then we can start to peel back the layers and get down to the root cause of a lot of the stuff that they're suffering with. And so, I love the fact that you put that system into place, man. That is freaking awesome.
Yeah, one of my stories, Tony, is with my water skiing. Half a dozen years ago, prior to COVID, I was out there with our ski crew, and we're doing show skiing, so we got multiple people behind the boat with all the stunts we do. And I went out around for the run of that act of our show for practice. And I come into our landing spot. I kick off my skis and I pick them up, and I come onto the stage area, and I'm a show skier, and I'm on this is practice, but there's people who watch us practice. So we have an audience even when it's not the official show. And I look out at a tree and I see a guy, and then I strike up a conversation like, "Hey, are we doing anything right? You like anything? What are you thinking? What do I got to do better? Blah, blah, blah." And it just gets the conversation going. We had a wonderful community conversation through that. And at the end of it, I looked at him and I said, "You should join our water ski club. How about it? What about joining our water ski club?" And he went silent. And my reaction was, I went silent. I love my body language. Like, I asked the question. I gave you an invitation, RSVP, please. But I didn't say anything. Just my body language, and I just sat there nice and relaxed. I had my skis. I'm just hanging there, and I'm waiting for him to come up with an answer. It took a full minute, but you know what he comes back with, Tony?
Yeah.
I thought you had to be somebody. Woo! Could you imagine that? A man hangs out at a community park and has this type of opportunity to respond, and he's asked, and to think, everybody out there can think of the response they would have. I don't know anybody in my life ever, in my decades of life, like this gentleman was in a unique place, and it spoke to me. It spoke to me really loud. I mean, he just, in his, just real subtle personality or whatever, I thought you had to be somebody, but that was like our heavenly creator talking to us, like that gentle lightning thing. It was ever so gentle, but it came like lightning all the way through me. And it was like, from that moment on, I knew that's really the bottom line, Tony, for everything that I've described.
Yeah.
My ultimate commitment is to make sure that I lock arms with folks like you, Tony, and our whole audience, whoever's listening to me say these words. We're locking together to make sure that 8 billion people on the planet all know beyond a shadow of a doubt there is something in you. You are somebody. Tony, you're somebody. I'm somebody. Everybody listening to this is somebody. We got 8 billion somebodies, and we are Team Earth to conquer all of the things that comes in through the noise and all the static and negativity. We're going to squash it and demolish it, because everybody is somebody and everybody's on the team, the human team. And we're a human family. And so we're going to bridge across the nation. We're working with Richie Honori from People for a New America. And again, 6 months ago, I was introduced to this. And imagine I'm being told that this group is running unity, peace, and freedom music festivals. And again, one nation or one mission, heal our nation. And it's described as Woodstock meets We Are the World. And you know how that goes. The children are our future. And we think about, how is what we're doing now affecting 7 generations from now on this planet? There's been 175 billion people ever on this planet. So, Tony, you're one in 175 billion of ever being a human, like you and I are humans. 175 billion people ever in the history of this planet.
Yeah.
And the stuff we're talking about, 175 billion people, including you and me, have never got it right as a collective.
Yeah.
The population on the planet has been replenished and then some, and we're still not getting it. So with our veterans, with this statistic that's climbing, to me, that's the tip of the iceberg. That's like the folks in the heavens say, dudes, how much we got to knock you upside the head? They're the ones that lead this thing. You
Right.
send them into
Right.
battle, they're battle trained. This is a war for peace.
Yeah.
Veterans with people with disabilities, and in our country, when we talk about all the minority groups and everything, and I speak about biblically when our Messiah spoke to the disciples and said, what you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. What you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. And the only reason our divine Messiah ever needed to say that was because of us, our mortal flaws. That is not a divine expression in terms of how things work in divinity. That is our human element when we say the least of these. We are 8 billion people equally yoked in the business of this planet. There is no least of these. It's what
Right.
we're doing, it's what we're messing up. And our veterans are getting the brunt. They're out there homeless, and we're treating them like maggots, like the drill sergeant. Move it, maggot. That's
Ooh,
what's going on.
man, that's deep. That's deep, but it's true.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of friends who are veterans, man. Some of my best of friends are veterans. I go out on a nightly basis, right? I got a couple of veterans that are camped out in different places that are homeless, and I sit down and I talk with them. I bring them meals, things like that, and I take out of my pocket my own money to put in their pocket. Like, look, man, I know you probably ain't got much, but here's something, right? And I do that every night. I go out every night, and if they ain't in one area, I know how to track them down, right? I know how to track them down, man. And brothers, look, you're right. We're one entity in this whole big scheme of things. But at least we're doing something. You know what I'm saying? And we're trying to make a difference. I'm a firm believer in becoming the change that you want to see. Don't just talk about it, do it. Right? Go out there and make a difference in somebody else's life. And one of the things that I realized, and you said it, we've been getting it wrong so long, but I also seen a connection too. When people start these nonprofit organizations, they bring in these donors that's never been vets or anything like that, and they can dictate how you spend the money that they give you. I've always made it a point to go, you know what? I don't want your money. I don't. Don't donate to my nonprofit. Don't do it. If you want to do something, contribute to bringing people in. Let me do the rest, right? Because what I developed, and I don't know, I'm going to get your thoughts on this. What I developed was the blueprint. I put together a blueprint, but it's what I like to call a peg hole blueprint. So, say for instance, maybe 2 years from now, find something that doesn't work. Well, you can pull it out and replace it with something different, maybe something a little bit more effective, right? And then you kind of build upon there, which in turn you increase your resources, you increase the amount of people that you bring in. And so it's always constantly changing. You know what I'm saying? You're taking out pieces that don't belong and adding in things that do, right? The goal is to constantly evolve with the people. So you're not missing out on the opportunity to be able to give that individual what they need instead of looking at, what I'm saying, what 100 other people need, right? You kind of cater it to that individual. So when you give this person the blueprint, they can go, well, I don't need this. Well, you know what I'm saying? And you listen to them. And that's theirs, right? That's their blueprint. And I always encourage them, look, as you go, change it up a little bit, right? Change it up as you see fit. What are your what are some of the challenges with having donors come in? Is it the same thing that I've seen across the board that they're always trying to dictate things that doesn't work? Like it's like they're still running off of an old playbook, right? They're afraid to change.
Well, what folks with the resources of money that we're looking for, what they need to see is they need to see the predictability. Because when they let go of that money in the trust, the treasury, in the coffers, and they let that money out, the person who is letting that happen and how that person is able to do it in the organization, so the board of directors as a group and everything, it's about risk management. So we want to make sure that with all of the energy and resources and other dollars it took to get the big set of dollars that's impressive to give away, it's like we want to hand that off and know that when we're told they're to serve veterans, that the veterans are going to receive the services, that we're going to see the statistics about how that money helped the veterans and to see the qualitative information about how amazing it is and how the veterans are reviewing and, seeing the thanks from veterans or, whatever demographic a nonprofit is serving. And another thing that these groups need to see is the coalition, the association, the interlocking, the linking, the collective, the collaboration, that there's unity amongst the groups. So when they give this money out, when they see that there's a dozen organizations that are stakeholders to that money, and so there's all the different board of directors overlooking that, see that's a security blanket for when that money goes out, that they're not putting all their eggs into one basket with the risk of it may have all gone for naught. But if you have groups showing that they're great at working cohesively and there's a collaboration and everybody stays in their lane and their mission, and you're able to have them together as a team of organizations, so each organization has a strong suit and they all complement and supplement each other, that's where the strategy and where to place money is. So when we have individual organizations speaking to their pain point that they never get these monetary awards or rewarded with grants and stuff like that, that's the thing we're putting out there to think about. At Project Die Hard, we're all about the partnerships. We're talking about community partners, ministry partners, resource partners, mission suppliers, and we're creating the whole op program so that we do what we do to help bring it together and manage the facilities and be the conduit and all. So we're the general contractor, and we need all the specialists to come in and do what we're not gonna say we're good at doing it. We want all you partners out there, like you can be a resource partner, with this program right here. We're talking about our mission right here, and this is what it takes. So when we're telling people about, put money into our treasury, and this is how we operate, we can say, hey, look, this is what we accomplished with Tony Lynch, on this program right here. And then we can just keep going down all the things. When I talked about Spirit of the Game, today I was on a Zoom with Spirit of the Game. They had a whole set of workshops going. And then my luck, they positioned me to be the last one. And what happens is they have a day of workshops, and I'm a podcaster. And the funny thing is that I have admin rights as, the America's chair for the Impactful Veterans Network, with the Zoom account. And so I've been for a year using this account to do live streams like I did today. And they all come into this thing for a workshop. And I'm explaining to them, to get you caught up, for the last year, I've been doing these live streams on this account. And I said, we have an option. We got a fork in the road. Do I park my show, or do we make the workshop a show and then share out through my developed audience what we do in the workshop? And they all agreed, let's do a podcast together. So my podcast grew because all of a sudden I have these workshop attendees in the middle of my live stream. And we started to piecemeal it together, and I got everybody interacting. And what I demonstrated, the whole purpose of the workshop was networking. So let's look at this, Tony. You and I met through Alan Holmes, right? So Alan networks and brings you into his show, and I'm supporting his show. You and I meet. You support me by inviting me here. And now my Spirit of the Game crew knows about this show. See, this is how the magic happens. When there's no bias pathways, nobody's a barrier. It's a free pass. Come on through, super highway. Come on through. Bring your thing. Let's do it. Go, go, go. Green light's always on.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. With Kurt Roskopf, you got a green light. Let's go.
I love that right there, because listening to you, it's like I see everything on the end of where I work, right? So, part of the things that I do is that I partner with people from across the world, and I help other individuals who are passionate about it, help them start up their organizations. So we have, I think right now at the moment, we have 13 different satellite locations international, and we have 49 nationally. So, but these organizations are just now, they're startups, right? So I'm working with people, going, oh, you know what? I think this is going to be perfect for you. And then we come together, and it's a beautiful thing. We come together to teach each other, what it's like in different countries, right? You know what I'm saying? This is a necessity. Then I can connect them with the right people. My other organization, the Global Grief Network, I'm partnered with grief workers from across the world. Everybody that ranges in, everywhere from, child loss to, miscarriages to, you name it, we work with it, right? Pet loss, etc. Different types of understanding the different types of grief, and that comes along with that. And we begin to circulate with each other, going, oh, okay, like we have death doulas, right? You know what I'm saying? Or doulas in general. And we go, look, let's bring in a doulist to open up the doors for these different things. And what you may find is that there'll be a group of people that may separate themselves going into different groups. And I tell them, look, don't be afraid to bounce around once you get what you need, right? And it's pretty much the same concept of what you do, Kurt. That group is a networking group. It's like, look, let's see how we could come together to impact our communities, right? You know what I'm saying? To have a bigger impact with them, to reach those individuals, that think that is expensive. Let's offer our services to them for free, right? Let's figure out ways to fundraise. Let's figure out ways of getting more people included included inside of these things, which leads me to this question. Do you think it's harder to be inclusive with a lot of other groups and things like that may have the heart for it, but not the passion? I guess that's what my question would be.
Well, I think it's, when you're asking me this question, it's about, you're describing a question where it's like, how do I find it when, another group or person could be a part of this, but then they're not, because they could be a part of it, but they're not passionate about it, which would be my mission, like the Project Iron mission, spreading hope to veterans, to combat veteran suicide. And they're not really lit up about it. And, I wouldn't be convinced they're going to take action because they're lit up about something else, like out in the cancer community or whatever. So I never try to overthink, like, why is this person not doing my thing? The important thing is to help somebody do their thing, and hopefully they know what their thing is. A lot of people need help to figure out what their thing is. Like you say, startup groups, like there's something that lit them up to get them to the point where they're telling you what their thing is. But a lot of these startups are forming, like, how do they make it clear, and how does it become the thing that's going to, more frictionlessly and seamlessly go out there and grow and like become that organization that's very efficient with dollars donated and stuff like that. So it's like when you do a fundraiser, the more specific you are to the prospective donor on when that dollar goes into your account, what's really going to happen with that dollar? Are you buying hard goods? Are you paying for legal services? Or, what are you doing with my dollar when I give it to you? And so they're showing most success when somebody's like, this organization, needs a tent. And it's going to cost this much to buy the tent. And this is why we need the tent. And everybody's got that focus. Like, yeah, I'll throw in $20 to help them get the tent. When it's that clear, but it's, support XYZ organization and throw $1. Yeah, if your mission lights them up and that's their place in their heart. But a lot of people may not even be fired up about your organization. But if you're really clear on what you're going to do with the dollar, they feel like if they take their credit card and they funnel some of their money to you, like, hey, for your thing, it looks like you're doing a good thing with your thing. And they could see how people are going to benefit. And they feel really good that they're $20 or $200 or $2,000 or whatever they can do, that's going to help that thing. And they maybe hopped on your bandwagon, weren't initially lit up to it. And sometimes people are giving you credit for doing that, so like in the business community, it's known, and this is for nonprofits too, to some extent, is that people wait until you're in it for like 6, 7, 8 years because it's like there's these statistics about, if you've been around 2 or 3 years, you might not be here in a couple of years. And, why am I going to put my resources? That to me, that really stinks. I'm here to tell the global business community and the global world that really stinks, that we know that that's true. My question to the world is, why are we not a people that when somebody is telling us what would help them bounce out of bed and to do this thing that's passionate and legitimate and will help our social sector or help our industrial sector, whatever it is, why don't we wrap around these innovative people and help them do it? Now, if somebody's not coachable, and if somebody's like, going to self-sabotage and do some things that we can't control, and, it's just kind of like people need to want the help, all that. There's a lot of things to say about that, but I would say the drastic failure rate is not the entrepreneur. It's not the founder of a nonprofit. It's the whole doggone community.
Yes.
We look at it like, prove it to me.
Yeah.
Talk to me later when you got it all worked out.
Yeah.
It's like, when I talk to people, when I'm spending minutes with people about what they're passionate about, what they're doing, I'm like, I'm spending time with you. How can I help? What can I do right now? Do you need information? You need my Rolodex open? Do we need to hop on LinkedIn and you can see my contacts? Like, let's give you the fast track pass.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can save you from, months worth of work, like AI. Everybody's like AI. Like that AI crawler goes out there and collects all this global information off of the internet and scrubs it and scrapes it and puts it out in this magical format. Why aren't we as people doing that? Why don't we have the emotional intelligence to say that AI is beating the humans on what we should have been doing across all of the 175 billion of us?
I got a thought on that. I think a lot of it is fear. And the reason why I say that is because when I first started this 6 years ago, right, there wasn't too many people out there that was doing what I was doing. I'm a guy that's coming into this field of being a nonprofit that wants to work with men, right? Strictly just men, because I understand it. I understood it. And Kurt, I went and reached out to businesses and things like that. So because I saw the benefit of it, right? I saw how we could work together. The first year and a half, man, these people shut the doors in my face so many times. And they did exactly what you said, Kurt. Oh, you don't have enough, you don't have enough for us to want to invest in you. You don't, and I got that all the time for the first year and a half. Was it discouraging? It was. And finally, I just said, you know what? No more. Right. I went to local organizations like your churches and, other nonprofits, and people used to always tell me the same thing. Oh, wow, that sounds pretty interesting. Let us know how we can support you. What the other problem is that those people, those same people, they never supported me, right? They never supported me. I was just one of those, oh, let me support you. And I would see them, like I see them nowadays. They go, hey, how's everything going? Oh, everything's going good. Oh, we should sit down and talk. No, I'm good. I'm okay. I'm okay with you, right? Because I managed to do some things, you know what I'm saying? Because I didn't have any mentors, you know, and the more people I wanted to mentor me, I didn't have access to because I didn't have the money, right? I had to work nights in order to fund what I was doing. So I made it my mission. I said, you know what? Before I ask anyone else to invest in what I'm going to do, I'm going to invest in it myself. That way, you know, there's no risk to anyone. And these these companies that do have the means to be able to do it, I don't know how to change their minds. But now I say that to say this because what I have run across though, and this has been a huge challenge on most ends, is that you get people that come in for the wrong reasons. And I think it makes it harder for those of us who are in it for the right reasons to weed through to get to the people that can help us make that difference. Because I think a lot of times these individuals get burned, right? You know, because you hear the horror stories. Oh, I just invested $10,000, and that person gets it, and then you get other, you know, you get a lot, you get maybe about 10, 12 other organizations or companies that do that. And then these people disappear. I know a lady right now who started up 3 nonprofits, got over $250,000 and disappeared, right? Disappeared. And I think that's where most of our challenges as people who are very, very passionate and care about the work that we do. I think that's what we find our biggest struggles with. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I want to take what you said there about a person comes in and is put in a position of trust and has a life journey where they carry out that they take $250,000. So let's get a handle on that, because we need to know the source of that action. The source of that action is obviously for that person. Somewhere along the line, something went seriously awry. I
Mm.
have a
Yes.
mantra that I formulated, back in my teen years, kind of, sort of, more in my college years and more by the time I was 30. I declared that each and every one of us are born in this world perfectly. And I know folks are out there that have miscarriages, and there's births that, result in the death of the child and all that kind of stuff. So it seems, heartless to say this kind of stuff, but to me, we all have a purpose. We talk about the miracle of birth. And to me, with what's going on in our world and our circumstances, we all emulate, you know, where we're at and how we're doing physically, like how we eat, like you are what you eat, and all this stuff. Our bodies are our
Mhm.
temples, and all this stuff. So a child is that way too, in terms of the prenatal care and all that kind of stuff. So every child born into this world, whether it's a cesarean section or whatever it is, that that the birth, like, the child is there, survived or not. That is a perfect expression of what that person's life represents right at that moment. It's the most perfect part of the whole thing.
Mhm.
Then what happens when they come into our environment and they hang with us? That's where it starts to go wrong. Like nature versus nurture. It's that,
Right,
not to
right.
say that mothers or families or whatever like that are going wrong. There's so much to celebrate what goes on. But when we talk about at someone's point in life, you got to go all the way back. Like they're talking about adverse childhood experiences and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So we have to go back to everyone's birth, their date of birth, and we have to go back to that. And we have to analyze what's happened since birth And with prenatal care, there's stuff that make that magical moment of birth as great as it can be. But the game time is birth. That's game time, showtime,
Right.
and everything depletes from there, but it's a rocky road, ups and downs, and we build from it, when possible, and all that stuff. So to me, something went awry, that somebody had such a capacity in their life that they deserve something that the world was not giving them, that they get in the right direction, they needed to steal 250 grand.
Right. Yeah.
We hear
Yeah.
these stories that, people commit murder. They make that destructive decision to murder somebody, like even say Hitler. Let's take Adolf Hitler. Like, what the heck happened? Go back to his birth and figure out what happened from birth to this character that, one of the most egregious characters ever on this planet. He's 1 in 175 billion. Wow, way to go, Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
But again, even that he got to that ideology that came indirectly from the world. Now, he made destructive decisions. Again, it's tough that if the world has something to help a person with and the person doesn't receive it, that's just something messed up with the person's inside and their soul and stuff like that. I mean, that you start to get into theology and stuff when you start going there.
Right.
But we do have to admit, as a world, we can do better to wrap around people and to make all that stuff happen. So when you're talking about that decision-making process, do we as a group go forward? I'm the decision maker for the organization. Do I stamp it and go? Or do I say no? Again, we're looking for that predictability. And, that's what it's about, to say, if that person didn't accept your message, there wasn't enough homework done. There wasn't enough, relationship built. There wasn't the conduit to come in, but in advocacy, I agree with you. We have to figure out a way to get with folks that have that authority and that power. And we have to take a look at the system to help them better have people who are rejected, so to speak, or flat out rejected, how we make this whole thing work better, that it's more like discernment. Our Heavenly Father says, when 2 or more come together in my name, we know that his will can be done. So it takes that type of thing in all of these things. So I bring that stuff into the answer of your question, is that's what we're lacking as people, that coming together and that equally yoked process. We have too much like, I'm up here, you're down there, and sorry, I'm up here and
Right.
go away because I got stuff to do at this level, and you're down here at this level. Bye-bye. We have to, as a society, eradicate that and get that out of our systems, that people can't practice that, and the greatest of these is love. So like when I was vice chair of the Wisconsin Council on Physical Disabilities, I'm like, what's a word in government work that is taboo, and I don't get why? Well, I get why, but to me, I'm here to say, let's change it. Let's bring love to let's make it that people at a council meeting can say, we need to bring some more love into this. And this is what we're going to do for the folks that we serve. So like in your veteran services, to say we love our vets, and at the front of our response of everything is love. We have social workers, like, that's inappropriate and so forth. No, we got to make it that all throughout our expressions that we can have a way to say that love is the only way.
I want to add to that too. I want to add to that because you're absolutely right. But I think that another section that people sometimes look past is your lived experience as well. And the reason why I say that, right, and I'm glad that you brought this up, going back to, figuring out what happened throughout your life. One of the techniques that I developed before I got into this work, because I was curious, I wanted to know why I was the way I was, right? I was a violent individual. And it took me a long time to get to where I am today. Right? It took me having a son and relinquishing or wanting to be better, right? And that's where the start. Well, that's what one of the starts was. It was a sequence of events. And when my son passed away, I said, you know what? Part of me wanted to go back to the balance, right? I wanted the world to feel my pain. But then there was another side of me that held on to the smile and and the laughter of my son, right? And with the things that I had taught him. And then when my mother passed away, I was like, man, I'm an orphan now. And then the reality hit me. My younger brother was gone too. And I said, wow, this life just played a cruel joke on me. I'm the last of my bloodline. So again, going right back full circle, I want to be violent again. I want the world to feel my pain, right? But then something happened, and what I did, I followed, I followed the Creator's heart and His words, and the words were, "Go back to the beginning." And what I found was, I began to teach myself how to dream backwards in life from where I was, and I went backwards and I started remembering people, like conversations, every detail of it. And when I woke up the next day, I could remember what was going on. And so that night, that when I go back to sleep that next night, I would start from where I stopped and go back a little bit further, right? Until I got down to where I was 6 years old. I realized that's where it all started. And I realized when I began to put everything together, my brain had rewired everything to keep me safe, but it kept me in survival mode, right? And so understanding that the lived experience is how I was able to connect with people, with those other men out there. And I realized that it wasn't a hard thing, from childhood molestation to the gangs, to being in prison, to the losses, the things like that, and the pile of crap that had been on top of everything. And then these famous words, man up. No, no one cares about what you're going through. You're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to go out here into the world. You know what I'm saying? And the reality of it is that no one cares. No one's coming to save you, Tony. And that was the connection that I had with those other men, because we had all been told the same things. And once I began to sit with them, I realized I was able to connect with them on a deeper level. Now, I'm just a young dude, right? I'm 50 years old, right? And I've been doing this since I was 44. And so, can you imagine talking to somebody older than me, about what's going on in their life? And they're looking at me like, young dude, you have no idea. You haven't even lived life until they hear. And then they're going, oh, how, how did you kind of maneuver that? Well, I had to become what I needed for those individuals, and I had to begin the healing process. So I modeled everything that I've done, the programs that I've written behind that concept right there. So when I put it out into the world, it's well thought through, right? And I kind of I kind of pay attention to people to help me avoid them if they're not in the right place and things like that. If I know, again, practicing discernment, right? You know what I'm saying? Because I want to be surrounded by people who I know that if I recommended someone to you, I know that they're going to be in good hands. Because look, I know where I'm good at. I know where I'm not good at. I stay in my own lane. I stay in my own lane. I'm like, look, I may not be the person for you, but I know somebody. Right? Let me connect you with them. Right? And I make it a point to surround myself with people who are heart centered. Right? Because as you said, Kurt, the key to it is love. How many times does a person tell a complete stranger, I love you? Right?
That's right.
That's the
Yeah.
key to it. Is you said it, it's love. Love, grace, and patience on top of everything else that you mentioned. Oh, you froze up on me. Well, everybody that's out there listening, Kurt froze up on me. But what are your thoughts on that, right? We're talking about veterans. I know we got some veterans out there right now. So guys, like, put your questions and comments in the comment section. We're going to be wrapping this up soon. Oh, he's back. He's back, Kurt. So, that's my last question. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I want to reflect upon what you got in the background here, where you have a human hand holding up the planet,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea of, having the whole world in your hand. And I'm talking about the 8 billion people, and we're all equally yoked. And, I really believe in the idea that, however you feel that the first person on earth got started, whether through creationism or evolution, the Big Bang
Mm-hmm.
Theory, whatever, I've been getting pretty good universal acceptance to say the idea is there was one, and then there were two, and then this whole population grew from that very beginnings. So the idea, if we understand how the growth of population is working and bloodline and all that, we essentially are one organism
Mm-hmm.
all around the world, and now 8 billion different pieces, but we're all one unit. So it's like the human body, all the different organs and all the different functions, like you say, staying in your lane. And, they're talking about how gut health drives the, heart health and the
Oh yeah.
brain health, and, how it's all got to work. All the systems got to work together. And I believe that the population of the planet is the same way. So when we talk about the herd of veterans, being isolated and being homeless and, left in suicide ideation and left to their own thoughts and darkness, and we're not coming in a community response to their liking,
Mm-hmm.
it's like in the disability community, people with disabilities taught me that their battle cry is nothing about us without us. And the
Mm-hmm.
agency work in the disability services is about self-determination. So, like we're talking about these podcast shows and so forth, I'm on a project for like the Veterans Network, and, we're really creating these capacities that every veteran around the world that has something to say about, their life journey and what it says to the experience of a veteran, we're going to network people all around the world, that there's more capacity than messages. And until we get there, we're going to keep driving the platforms. We're going to use all the potential of broadcast and satellite and all the technologies so every veteran can speak, because you are somebody. Every
Mm-hmm.
veteran is somebody in that purpose. And we got to listen for that voice. There's that little pilot light inside every person that, if we just let it flame up, get cooking with
Yeah.
gas, get some fire going, get it, and just find out what's natural to come from inside. It's outreach and inreach. What's happening inside of you? What do we got to work out? Every message started with a mess, mess,
Yeah. There
and
you go. There you
um,
go.
yeah, and the idea of, we may not have it all, but together, or no, it's we may not have it all together, but together we have it all.
Mm-hmm.
That's the idea. So to just bring it back to the veteran component as our focus here for this conversation, if we can do that with other vets. So if you see a homeless vet, if we can come and say, let's check in with that vet. Let's see if that vet wants to have a conversation, or if wants somebody there. If they're all good, like you said, you've told people, no, I'm all good, whatever, well then, okay, I don't play a role here. But let's run that experiment. Alan and I met through the Happy Neighborhood Project, which is created by Edwin Edeberry out of Sacramento, California. And his story is he got lit up to respond to deploying happiness because of what we were all experiencing in the recession when we talk about the year 2009. That inspired Edwin to go out, and he ended up interviewing 1,000 people about happiness.
Mm-hmm.
So let's all go with that idea is, do you have enough appetite to go interview 1,000 veterans about how are things going? How are you doing? What's going on? What's on your mind? Just be
Mm-hmm.
a friend. Just be someone
Yeah.
who is there in love, and to just say anything I can do for you. You want to spend some time? Or you want to just chit chat? You want to just hang out? We can be in complete silence. We can just take up some space together. We can go loiter together. Whatever.
Yeah.
Just that sense of that they know, hey, I'm with a human being that cares. This is pretty radical here.
Mm-hmm.
you know, And if it's not 1,000, can at least be one. Let's do something that is simple enough that we will do it. Because
Yeah.
Brian Gibson, as far as, things with our mission, he tells us as ambassadors, he's like, if you don't ask Tony, like, what do you want to do with Project iHeart? If I don't ask that, that is me saying no. If I don't ask you, Tony, that's me saying Tony's not going to have anything to do with Project iHeart. If I don't ask you,
Right.
So that's what it's about. And it's the same thing with the vets. If we don't go out there and do something with our vets and support people who are supporting vets and be a part of the equation, we're the ones that fail when we don't do that. So that's my big ask coming out to the end of the show here.
Yeah. And I'm add one more thing to that. I think we need to stop asking people to meet us where we are and make more of a point to meet people where they are, right? Stop asking people to come out of their comfort zone and get out of our comfort zone and get out here and do what we're called to do, right? Because we're the ones who made the commitment to go out here and do it. So, I just wanted to add that to what you were saying. Now, with that being said, my brother, I only got two more questions for you. Two more questions as we begin to wrap this up. First, I want to say thank you for such an amazing conversation. Thank you for the work that you do, and for the work that you do with our vets and our disabled communities, man. That is huge, right? And for everyone out there, I want to say that, Kurt's information is in the YouTube channel. So go there and check it out, right? You know what I'm saying? Donate if, but see how you can get involved to help make a difference in someone else's life. So my next question, Kurt, how can people find you?
Well, you can have an interesting time searching for Kurt Roskopf. I actually have a Shirtel relative also by the name of Kurt Roskopf. I'm in Milwaukee. He's in Chicago, and he enjoys getting those Google alerts on his name, but he sees all the time. So just imagine him getting this video because he's getting Google alerts on what we're doing right here. So you can enjoy that. My handle on LinkedIn is Hey Kurt, HEYKURT. Hey Kurt. So linkedin.com/in/Hey Kurt. People can call and text me 262-372-1754. Email me Kurt KURT at projectdiehard.org. And I'm happy to take inquiries, or I got the WhatsApp is +1 414-514-0186. I'm a public media guy. I'm a community organizer. I live in a glass house, as they say. And, so bring it to me, whatever you got. If you can get me for a moment, I'll take that moment. You never know what it'll expand to. I met with somebody yesterday that we were going to meet for an hour like this. We ended up meeting for 5 hours yesterday. It just kept going and going and going. So I'm open to anything. I'm open.
Yeah. And how can people find your podcasts?
With the podcast, my YouTube channel is youtube.com/@ability-network. So you can go to youtube.com and search for World of Ability Network. And that's where we even did a show today. And we're podcasting all week long and twice on Sunday. And we're also plugged into the Disability Channel. You can see all that action. The disabilitychannel.ca, and we're proudly partnered with them through Project iHeart.
Okay. It shows up again. Guys, please go check them out, right? You guys are enjoying this conversation, especially our vets out there. There's a lot more coming that we didn't even scratch the surface on, guys. And, Kurt is out here making a difference, one heartbeat at a time. So now, Kurt, one last question for you. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Well, it's clearly, in the connection, connecting, and doing networking. I had someone 23 years ago that when we were talking shop on what we were doing, that we met in networking, she said something to me that just really, really resonated with me and really is great direction. She's like, her name's Tammy. And what Tammy told me that day is, she's like, Kurt, I network from within. And so that was indication of sometimes we saw her in the networking group, sometimes we didn't, sometimes she shifted. She never did something because of our journeys. She did it because she contemplated and discerned. She's a Reiki practitioner, and all the stuff, everything she does, she really gets down to with who she is, what is that thing that she can move forward and do. And so when she shows up in our groups, that's affirmation for us that she feels she's meant to be there, and like she's ready to serve, and something's going on, and there's likely something going to be exchanged, and it'll be significant because that's how she evaluates if she's going to do something. So that connecting element, and I don't want to be like saying compassion in that is my superpower, but the idea is in my life journey, like even when I was a teenager, like my friends' mothers, it's like, it's amazing what people have been, sharing with me. And I've always appreciated, I always took it as an honor and a privilege. And so that listening thing to a point, I more had to, take a drastic improvement in my listening in the last, 16, 17 years, because I figured out prior to that, I really was stunting myself at listening. But the whole idea is connecting, like the show I did today, where the show I do converged with the workshop that was meant to commence. And I crafted that, that was in the story of water skiing too. The disability community taught me how to do this. So I was supposed to do a demonstration, and I presumed that they were providing a boat and such. I was wrong. And the organizer asked me if that was a problem. I'm like, no. And I had to go find a solution because I committed I was going to do this, adaptive water ski demo. And I kept on it until I found a solution. I found a boat that was going to do the thing. So that determination and connection and that outward focus, I'm here as a servant, as a minister. And, I come from having heart issues, myocarditis and such like that. So I really feel lucky to be alive, and, to be able to look at, consequence, and, just looking at serve the human experience, and to be a little bit of a visionary. And all of the things that go on inside of me is what it is. But the thing that lights it up is the connection. And so knowing how connection happened for me, I have that outward focus that the function I operate in is I got to figure out if there's something meant to be that I'm connecting others. So like sitting here with you, Tony, and all your listeners, if I get these calls, that's what I'm always thinking. Who in my sphere might be a good candidate to come into this situation I'm learning about? So connection is my superpower. And with how we connected, I helped our master connector, Alan Holmes. He's the one that's really the guy with the gift, the human search engine, but I have my own side of that, that I celebrate too in connections. So working with him on the Mastery of Connection show where you and I met, that's right in my space, man. That's right in my superpower. And so Alan's one of my mentors, to help keep me at my best with my superpower that he has too. And he's got superiority in many ways that I love to keep learning about. So there you go.
I love that, man.
Don't ask me about my kryptonite, though. I will not reveal it.
We all have them, though. We all have our kryptonite, man. And, but it's that superpower that we carry with us on a day-to-day basis that makes us who we are, because we go out here every day and we change people's lives, as I always say to people, one heartbeat at a time. And it's such an honor to meet you and so many like yourself, one in 176 billion people in this world. You know what I'm saying? We've crossed paths, and that is a beautiful thing. And for everyone else out there, as Kurt said in the beginning, you are somebody. You're one in 176 billion, right? And you're here for a reason. And if you like these conversations, go check out Kurt's info. I got his info in a YouTube connection, in a YouTube page. Reach out to him. If you know a vet that can use that can be connected and benefit from the services that he has, connect him, please. You know what I'm saying? We need to do more as a community, as a human race. And with that being said, Kurt, thank you again for such an amazing conversation, brother. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully we can do this again. For everyone else out there that's tuning in on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all over the place, man. Guys, thank you so much. Alpha Zero, thank you for tuning in. And from Finland. Oh yeah, from Finland. So thank you. And as always, guys, you know what I'm saying? If you have not already, this is your first time tuning in. If you think I deserve a subscription, head on over to their YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification. So every time you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. For everyone else out there, thank you for your continued support, allowing us to keep bringing these conversations to you. But most importantly, again, if you know somebody who can benefit from them, share it along with them. Guys, we're going to close out this episode of the Let's Talk About a Podcast. We're going to see you guys in the next one. Love you. Have a great night.
Thanks, everybody.